On the same week in August, one of the biggest clubs in the world signed a 36-year-old and a 35-year-old, not as favours, not as squad fillers. Chelsea, the club that built its entire identity on signing teenagers with sky-high resale value, just handed Jordan Henderson and Danny Welbeck contracts. And if you think that's an isolated panic buy, look wider. This isn't a coincidence, it's a pattern, and it says something about where football is actually heading. Start with Chelsea, because it's the clearest case study in football. Since the BlueCo takeover in 2022, the club's whole strategy was built on one idea: buy young, buy cheap, develop, sell high. It worked as a spreadsheet. It didn't always work on a football pitch. Chelsea became one of the youngest squads in the Premier League, brilliant in bursts, but loose in the moments that decide matches. Poor game management, needless cards, not enough voices organising a backline under pressure. So this summer, under new manager Xabi Alonso, the club did something that would have been unthinkable 2 years ago. They signed Welbeck from Brighton, a 35-year-old striker who doesn't need a settling-in period because he already knows the league inside out. 2 days later, they added Henderson on a free transfer after his Brentford contract was torn up, specifically so he could join. Alonso had said in pre-season his side needed balance. In their final warm-up match before those signings, the oldest player in Chelsea's starting 11 was 23. That tells you everything about why this happened. Now, zoom out, because Chelsea is a symptom, not the whole disease. For a decade, recruitment across Europe chased one blueprint: sign them at 18, coach the potential out of them, flip them for profit. Brighton built an empire on it. Leipzig, Monaco, Benfica, Dortmund, Strasbourg, everyone copied the model until every club was fishing in the exact same pond for the exact same profile: fast, athletic, high pressing, high resale value. And when everyone chases identical traits, the traits stop being an advantage. What became scarce instead was composure, leadership, the ability to read a game rather than just run through it. Clubs overcorrected so hard toward potential that they forgot proven quality still wins trophies. That shift connects to something deeper happening in how the best teams actually play. Football hasn't gotten slower physically, it's gotten slower mentally, in the best possible sense. Guardiola's City, Spain's national team, Xabi Alonso's sides, Arteta's Arsenal, none of them are winning by simply outrunning opponents anymore. They're winning by making fewer mistakes than everyone else. Possession isn't there to look pretty, it's there to strip chaos out of the game, and that rewards a completely different skill set than raw speed. The question stopped being, can he sprint the length of the pitch? It became, can he make the correct decision every 5 seconds under pressure with 3 defenders closing him down? That's not a physical skill, that's an accumulated one. It's built through repetition, mistakes, and years on a pitch, which is exactly why 30-somethings are suddenly back in fashion. It also explains why transition football has quietly died out. A decade ago, chaos was the currency of the Premier League. Counter-attacks, verticality, pace in behind. But now almost every team presses, almost every team has athletes. When speed is universal, speed stops being a weapon. The advantage shifts to players who can solve a defensive puzzle technically instead of physically, players who manipulate pressure rather than sprint past it. Think Bernardo Silva or Luka Modric still dictating games in their 30s, or Joshua Kimmich reading spacing that younger players simply haven't learned to see yet. These are players who rarely panic because panic is what gets punished hardest in a pressing league. And it's worth naming where a huge chunk of this philosophy actually comes from: Spanish coaching. Guardiola, Arteta, Alonso, Luis Enrique, Emery, Lopetegui, an entire generation of managers raised on positional play now sits at the top of the world's biggest clubs. Their football isn't about who's the quickest to a loose ball, it's about spacing, body orientation, scanning before the ball even arrives, controlling tempo like a conductor rather than a sprinter. Those qualities typically peak between 29 and 34, precisely the age range traditional recruitment models were built to write off, which means clubs following the old Moneyball logic were selling off players right as their footballing intelligence was hitting its ceiling. Look closer at where clubs are actually spending this money, and it's not random at all. It's centre-backs, defensive midfielders, goalkeepers, strikers, positions that live or die on anticipation rather than acceleration. A defensive midfielder's job is reading danger before it happens, not outrunning it. A centre-back organises a line through communication that only comes from experience. Real Madrid didn't sign Denzel Dumfries by accident. They brought him specifically as a 30-year-old who's already lifted trophies and doesn't need coaching through big occasions. Manchester City let Stones leave on a free this summer after a decade of titles, and Inter, the reigning Serie A champions, snapped him up instantly, saying explicitly they wanted his accumulated European experience in their dressing room. That's not a club settling, that's a club shopping deliberately in the experience aisle. There's also a financial logic hiding under all of this, and it's embarrassingly simple. A promising 22-year-old midfielder can cost £80 million, a 5-year contract, and years of patience while he learns the job. A proven 33-year-old can often be had for a fraction of that, sometimes on a free transfer with zero adjustment period and far less risk of a wasted signing. Under tightening financial regulations across Europe, that math matters more than ever. Look at Sunderland, newly promoted, expected to struggle. They spent roughly £13 million on 32-year-old Granit Xhaka, a player some had already written off. He ended the season as their captain, their player of the season, and one of the biggest reasons a newly promoted side qualified for the Europa League. People laughed at the signing when it happened. Nobody's laughing now. Sometimes clubs don't even need to go shopping for it. They just have to stop giving up on what's already in the building. Harry Maguire spent the better part of 3 years as the Premier League's punching bag. Stripped of the Manchester United captaincy, dropped from the England squad, reportedly close to being pushed out the door entirely. The story everyone told was simple: an aging, error-prone centre-back who'd been exposed by a faster, sharper league. Then, under interim manager Michael Carrick this past season, something shifted. United stopped treating Maguire's experience as a liability and started using it as a foundation. And he responded with some of the most composed form of his career, driving a run that pushed United back into the top 4. The club tore up his expiring contract and handed him fresh terms instead of letting him leave for free. Nothing about Maguire got faster. What changed was the value placed on a defender who's read 1,000 Premier League matches and rarely gets rattled by the ones that matter most. Then there's the part fans consistently underrate: the dressing room. Older players don't just play matches, they run them from the inside. They set training standards, mentor teenagers through pressure, handle the media noise that can derail a young player's season. Henderson's arrival at Chelsea was framed almost entirely around this. Not what he adds tactically, but what he adds culturally to one of the league's youngest, most emotionally volatile squads. Barcelona have leaned on this exact model before, with senior defenders mentoring their academy graduates, and it's part of why they're chasing 32-year-old Aymeric Laporte this summer, hoping to pair his experience with Pau Cubarsí after the two combined so effectively for Spain's national team. None of this means youth development is dying. Academies are still the backbone of every serious club. But something has clearly cracked in the assumption that potential always beats proof. Sports science extended careers further than anyone predicted a generation ago. Look at Modric or Edin Dzeko, both of whom extended their contracts this summer to remain in the best leagues in the world. So maybe football isn't becoming slower. Maybe it's becoming smarter. For years, clubs chased speed because they assumed speed solved everything. Now they're rediscovering what the greatest managers already knew: the fastest player on the pitch isn't always the one who runs the quickest, it's the one who thinks quickest. And that might be exactly why in 2026, a 35-year-old striker and a 36-year-old midfielder just became two of the most talked about transfers in England. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Remember to leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it and subscribe to the channel. Also, be sure to turn on post notifications so that you never miss out on any new videos. Catch you in the next one. Bye.